Have you ever wondered how your hand gestures and facial expressions are interpreted in different corners of the world? Non-verbal communication is a universal language, yet it's also unique, like a fingerprint, to each culture across the globe. It's a fascinating dance of unspoken words, a silent dialogue that speaks volumes. While a smile may be the universal welcome, many other gestures and expressions are not. A thumbs up, a nod, a wink, these all carry different meanings depending on where you are. Some might be well understood, others could lead to amusing misunderstandings, while a few might even be considered offensive in certain cultural contexts. Nonverbal communication is an intricate tapestry of movements and expressions, each thread woven with meanings that are deeply embedded in the fabric of a culture. So, as we embark on this exploration of global nonverbal communication, prepare to be surprised, amused, and enlightened. Now think about a simple thumbs-up gesture. Seems universally positive, right? Well, let's take a closer look. In most Western cultures, showing a thumbs up is a friendly way to say, "Good job," or "Everything's great." It's a cheerful, easy-to-interpret sign of approval and positivity. You got a promotion at work? Thumbs up. Your team won the game? Thumbs up. It's a universal sign of positivity, or so we think. Yet, if you were to flash a thumbs up in certain Middle Eastern countries, you might be met with a frown or even anger. In these regions, this seemingly innocent gesture equates to a very offensive insult. It's akin to showing the middle finger in some Western cultures. So, something that signifies positivity and approval in one place could be seen as disrespectful and rude in another. Now, let's shift our focus to another gesture, the peace sign. You've probably seen it in photos, at protests, or maybe you've used it yourself. 2 fingers up, palm facing outwards, a symbol of peace and victory made famous by Winston Churchill during World War II. But turn that palm inward in the United Kingdom, and you have a completely different story. This very same gesture is a rather rude one, essentially telling someone to get lost in not so polite terms. It's a stark contrast to its original meaning of peace and victory, isn't it? So, in the span of a few seconds, a simple shift in hand orientation can change a symbol of peace to an insult, and a sign of approval can become a vulgar gesture. It's fascinating, and it underlines the importance of cultural context in nonverbal communication. Clearly, a simple hand gesture can carry vastly different meanings depending on where you are in the world. If hand gestures can be this diverse, imagine the complexity of facial expressions. Our faces, capable of producing over 10,000 unique expressions, are powerful communicators. But just as with hand gestures, the interpretation of these expressions can vary dramatically from culture to culture. Let's jet off to Japan for a moment. Here, maintaining social harmony is of utmost importance, a principle deeply ingrained in their cultural fabric. It's often said that Japanese people have a public face and a private face. This concept, known as hon and tatemae, means that emotions are often masked in public to avoid conflict or discomfort. So, a smile in Japan may not always mean happiness, but rather, it could be a sign of respect or even discomfort. Now let's take a quick hop over to Italy or Spain, countries known for their expressive cultures. Here, emotions are worn like a badge of honor. Joy, surprise, anger, disgust. They're all openly displayed on the faces of these vibrant people. A smile is a smile and a frown is a frown, as clear as day. But it's not just about individual emotions. Consider the raised eyebrow, a universal sign of surprise, right? Well, in some cultures, it's also a silent way of giving consent or showing interest. It's these nuances that make the world of facial expressions so fascinating and at times perplexing. And what about the good old wink? In many Western cultures, it's a playful gesture, often signaling a shared secret or joke. But venture to parts of Africa or India, and you might find that this seemingly harmless gesture could be seen as disrespectful or even provocative. So while the human face may be a universal canvas, the art it displays is deeply influenced by the cultural brushes that paint it. Our faces do indeed mirror our minds, but those reflections are colored by the cultures we belong to. The face might be the mirror of the mind, but interpreting the reflections can be quite a challenge. It's not just about the gesture or expression itself, but also the context in which it's used. In the realm of nonverbal communication, this statement rings particularly true. Context holds a profound influence over the way we interpret nonverbal cues, and it's the key to understanding the rich tapestry of human communication. Let's take a journey to India, a country known for its vibrant culture and diverse traditions. There's a unique nonverbal gesture here that has intrigued and puzzled outsiders for years: the Indian head bobble. This gesture, a subtle shake of the head, can mean yes, no, or maybe, depending on the situation. While to an untrained eye, this may seem perplexing, but to those familiar with the nuances of Indian culture, the head bobble is a versatile communication tool. It's the context that gives it meaning. For instance, if you're at an Indian marketplace and the vendor responds with a vigorous head bobble when you ask if the apples are fresh, it's a hearty affirmation. However, if the same head bobble is given in response to a question about whether it will rain tomorrow, it's more of an uncertain maybe. Even within the same culture, context can change the meaning of a gesture. A thumbs up, for instance, could be a sign of approval in a casual setting among friends, but in a formal business meeting, it could be viewed as inappropriate or even disrespectful. So why does context hold such power in nonverbal communication? It's because our perceptions are shaped by our experiences, our culture, and our environment. The same gesture can hold different meanings in different situations, and it's our understanding of the context that helps us decipher these meanings. In conclusion, context is not just a backdrop against which communication happens, it's an integral part of the communication itself. It shapes the meaning of our gestures, our facial expressions, and our body language. So the next time you encounter a gesture or expression that seems to defy comprehension, remember to look beyond the gesture itself and consider the context in which it's being used. In the world of nonverbal communication, context is indeed king. So, how does one navigate this complex world of nonverbal cues and nuances? Well, the key lies in 3 pillars: observation, learning, and asking. Let's unpack these a bit, shall we? Observation is your first tool. It's a silent teacher, showing you the subtleties of how people interact. When you're in a new cultural environment, become a keen observer. Watch how people communicate, how they react, the gestures they use, the expressions they make. It's like learning a new dance. You watch, you mimic, and gradually you understand the rhythm and the steps. Next comes learning. You see, nonverbal communication is a language in itself, and like any language, it can be learned. Read about the culture you're going to interact with. Understand their customs, their traditions, their taboos. Learn their language of gestures and expressions. This not only shows respect, but it also helps you to communicate more effectively and avoid misunderstandings. But what if you're unsure? What if you're worried about making a faux pas? That's where the 3rd pillar comes in: asking. If you're unsure about a particular gesture or expression, ask someone who knows. It's better to admit that you don't know and learn than to assume and risk offending someone. People usually appreciate the effort you're making to understand their culture and are more than happy to help. Now, navigating the world of nonverbal communication may seem daunting, but remember, it's a journey. And like any journey, it's filled with discovery, understanding, and growth. You might make mistakes along the way, but that's okay. It's part of the learning process. As long as you're open, respectful, and willing to learn, you're on the right path. So embrace the silence, the gestures, the expressions. They're a part of the human experience, a part of our global language. And when you can speak this language, you can connect with people on a deeper, more authentic level. Remember, when words fail, our gestures and expressions speak. So let them speak respectfully and wisely. From thumbs up to peace signs, from stoic faces to animated expressions, we've traversed the globe through nonverbal communication. We've seen how a simple hand gesture can mean different things in different cultures. A thumbs up, for instance, may be a sign of approval in one country, but a rude gesture in another. Facial expressions too vary widely. In some cultures, a stoic face is a sign of respect, while in others, it's seen as cold or unapproachable. We've also highlighted the importance of context in interpreting these nonverbal cues. The same gesture or expression can mean different things depending on the situation, the relationship between the communicators, and the cultural norms. And finally, we've shared some tips for navigating this complex world of nonverbal communication. like doing your research beforehand and being observant. As we wrap up, remember, every gesture and every expression is a conversation. So the next time you're communicating without uttering a word, make sure it's the right conversation.